do that, I'm all in and I'm excited. The pieces of the puzzle that I've decided provides, there's 10 of them. Tools and resources are 2 of them. We're a source of information, a source of motivation, a resource for the people that might need a little bit of encouragement. If this show, The Source, can help our members do that, I'm all in and I'm excited. Good afternoon, everybody. Kurt P. White here. Welcome to August's edition of The Source. I am your host, again, Kurt P. White. Glad to be here. I want to make special mention, my co-host, who you're used to seeing, Dr. Marianne Hoyle, was not able to make it today. So, Dr. Marianne, hope all is well, and we'll look to see you next month. But I'm excited to have here at Widecast Studios with me our guest today, Mr. Bill Gombert. Welcome, Bill. It's nice seeing you. Nice to meet you finally.
Yeah, you as well.
I'm happy to say that Bill's going to be one of our key speakers at the I've Decided Motivational and Leadership Conference coming up on September 12th, which is it's open registration now. If you've not registered for the conference, make sure you get out and do so. You do that at www.ivedecided.org. is where you can set up for that. But I'm excited to have Bill here today, not just for the fact he's going to be a speaker, but as we were looking through, and as I always do for The Source, we talk about whatever the weekly winning word is that week, and this week it's about brand. And when I first reached out to Bill and was saying, hey, do you want to come on the show with me? And, okay, that sounds fun. What are we going to talk about? He was quick to share with me that he just recently kind of went through either a conversation or a training, but the discussion was all about how to brand yourself or rebrand yourself. He's also shared with me he recently transitioned to a new position and is in the process of, even by getting the new position, but now rebranding himself at the new job because, frankly, people don't know who he is yet.
That's exactly right.
So I was like, man, this is great timing. How awesome is this going to be to have Bill come on and discuss the weekly winning word? So, as I always do, again, welcome.
Thank you.
I'm going to share with our listeners. They should all have their I've Decided success journal. They should have also read this in their weekly winning resource, but I like to give the definition of the word, which the definition of brand is the personality and unique design or symbol of a person or brand. And the quote by Seth Godin, every interaction in any form is branding. With that being said, Bill, turn it over to you a little bit. Maybe introduce yourself for a couple minutes, and then let's roll into branding.
Sure. All right. So thanks, Kurt. As Kurt mentioned, my name is Bill Gombert. I'm in the technical services space. I'm technically in sales. I work with executives at heavy equipment OEMs to kind of help them, meet their goals through optimized outsourcing of some technical services. Mm-hmm. As you mentioned, I've taken a new role in the last couple of months. I'm still in the same industry. I've been in that industry for a little over 9 years. And really what I'm finding is that my brand is having to change a little bit. I'm now on a much larger organization. I'm trying to reach out to new people that don't know who I am. And so it's constantly about what am I bringing to the table? How am I perceived? Mm-hmm. And I'm probably not super qualified to talk about brand, but as you mentioned, when you reached out to me, I was actually, I had just signed up for a course on personal branding and what that looks like. Mm-hmm. And I think in today's environment, that personal branding is more important than ever.
Right.
It's prolific. I mean, 15, 20 years ago, it wasn't really a thing to have a personal brand, right? It wasn't really till social media really started to take off. And what I find interesting about the brand conversation is that as it transitions to more of an individual brand, mm-hmm. It accelerates.
Right.
And it seems like it takes forever to build it up. Like there's mm-hmm. this whole theory about consistency compounds. Like you have to constantly, as you mentioned in the definition, each little interaction, no matter where you are, who you're engaging with, that builds your brand or their perception of your brand. And it's funny because it can change so quickly too.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's not something that happens overnight. It's something that you have to work towards, and looking at it from the idea of you're building your following. You're trying to build a line of people that are going to pay attention to you for whatever it is that you're wanting, whatever message you're wanting to share. And like you said, 15, 20 years ago, that was almost exclusively something that was reserved for the large corporations. And the value of having a brand, just look at how much money and time and effort places like McDonald's or Xerox or
GM,
GM, that billions of dollars and hours of time went into getting that brand out there where they knew it was going to stick into people's minds. And so as far as personal branding is concerned, I kind of look at it as, what kind of stamp do you want people to recognize when they see it? What's your stamp look like? And once you establish that, how you have to live up to it. It's got to be something that, like you say, you build on it daily.
Consistent.
And so whatever that is, you want to make sure you live up to it day by day. And no matter what you're doing with social media, you can't get away with nothing. You're always out there wearing it on your sleeve.
Yeah.
So,
and it's I don't know if you've ever heard this saying. I think it was William Shakespeare that said it. He said, "Once I did good, that I heard never." Or twice I did good, that I heard never. Once I did bad, that I heard ever. That negative stuff, just it's everywhere in a heartbeat.
Right.
I think it was Volkswagen a few years ago had that Dieselgate scandal, and it was plastered all over the news and just totally tarnished their image. And with we talk about social media and you constantly having to put your stuff out there. I think a lot of people don't necessarily recognize the volume of data that is out there.
It's ridiculous.
It's unreal. There's a global marketing consulting information company called IDC, and they were talking about how the global data sphere, which is all the information that's put out in a given year, is going to grow from 35 zettabytes to 135 zettabytes within a 10-year period. And a zettabyte, by the way, is 1 billion terabytes. It's just crazy data overload, right? It's just unbelievable.
I'm aging myself, but when I was in high school, I had the 5 1/4 floppy disk that I thought was amazing, that we had 16K that we could save. 16K.
It's unreal. It's changing so fast, and I think some people get overwhelmed with that as they think about I'm gonna brand myself, right? So I'm gonna post something on Instagram, or I'm gonna go to Facebook. I'm gonna post a video. Or I'm gonna go to LinkedIn, and they just kind of sparse these things out, right? And they just occasionally post it, and they think that's gonna be enough to get their brand out there. And I think that's a bit of a misnomer. And I think what's more important than getting it out there is making sure that, as you said, the interactions that you have on an individual basis are the ones that you have that are impactful, right? So how you treat the waiter at the restaurant, it's got to be consistent, right? It needs to be part of your brand, and it's those interactions that build that goodwill. And I think it's great that people want to put stuff out on social media and try to build their brand that way. I think that's powerful, and I think to a lot of extent you need to do that.
Right, you have to take the first step.
Yep.
But I see where you're going with that. Is you got to put some thought and effort into making sure that there's an underlying theme to all of the platforms, that you're just not kind of willy-nilly slapping stuff up on the board, and unless that's the brand, unless that's the, you might be whatever that kind of artist is that just, throws the paint on the wall and sees how it's abstract.
There you go. Yeah.
Maybe that is your brand. And but I think that's a good example.
Yep.
You gotta kind of live by your brand, and what is the message that you want people to hear?
Yep. What do you want to be known for?
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
And I think you did a great job here recently. I watched a video that you posted You were just kind of casually walking down the street, and I think you had a meeting. But it was interesting. If you want to share just a bit about the whole idea of changing the perspective and how you look at things.
So that video was on just asking the right questions and kind of changing your mindset, and this will be something I talk about at the conference as well, and I'll get into that in a minute. I'm a guy that I believe that life happens in between your ears, right? It's a huge mental game. So in terms of that video, the high level is that I had changed jobs at my old company, and I was trying to figure out. I was like, I'm not clicking, right? Like I'm a couple months into it, and I was excited to take it. I'm like, I'm going to do well. We're going to do it, but it was a new and kind of a new environment. COVID was kind of on the cusp, and what ended up happening was I kept asking myself, well, what do I want? What do I want? What do I want? And for months, I was like, I couldn't answer that question, and so I decided to get an executive coach, and as I was talking to him, he totally rephrased the questions. He said, well, what's the real challenge? And I start like digging into that first, and then he asked, well, what do you want in life? And it just kind of like zoomed out. I'm like, that's genius, right? Because you start uncovering things when you ask questions in a series. And there was a book I read last year that was a little bit more business focused, but it was called The Road Less Stupid by a guy named Keith J. Cunningham. And he postulates that it's not because we get to the wrong answer that we make bad decisions. It's because we ask the wrong question. You're asking something that's too narrow. And, if you look at something from this angle, it looks different than if you scooch over here. And so when we talk about, I think it relates to brand in the fact that if you're constantly trying to push your views and the way you see things onto somebody, that brand is very different than me saying, well, what do you think? And help me understand where you're coming from, because everybody has different perspectives.
It leaves you not feeling fulfilled, like you said.
Yeah, and so as I said, the talk I'm doing at the conference is 3 pillars for your success, and that's mindset is going to be a huge portion of that, right? That's pillar number 1. Pillar number 2 is people. You need people. I mean, people make the world go round. You can't do this by yourself, and there's a community aspect to success. And also the last one is education. You have to be open to education. Now you got to be a little bit careful with that, because as we already talked about, the amount of data that's out there is massive, and it's not all good data, right? But it's something you have to be ready to learn from anybody at any time. I truly believe that it's not possible to be the smartest person in the room,
right?
Because that has an ego that comes with it, right? I don't care if you're a nuclear physicist, like you can learn something from a guy who's done welding for the last 15 years.
Absolutely.
So
I've always been that's always been my opinion. It's never too late to learn, and there's never anything bad to learn. You can learn from your mistakes and that whole other idea, but gaining knowledge is always a benefit. I can't think of a reason why, or an instance where it would be a negative. So the 3 pillars for success is going to be the name of your presentation, and I can't wait to hear it on September 12th. For those of you, again, that may not have registered yet, it is going to be, I've decided, its first virtual conference, so I do think we're going to be recording it live, but you'll all have a chance to once again see Bill and hear his story all about the pillars.
Yeah, don't come just for me, by the way. There's going to be a lot of good speakers there. I think it's going to be an exciting
It's going to be a
conference.
great day for sure, and thank you for saying that, Bill. But we're certainly happy to have you as part of it, and looking forward to that day. One thing I wanted, as I was sitting there talking about the personal brand again, going back to that word, as far as building your own following and the importance and the value, I hope our listeners have gotten a little bit from what we said, that there's a huge amount of value in finding your right brand and sticking with it, and how important it is nowadays, and with all the platforms and everything. But when you're sitting down asking the questions that you referred to and what are the right ones, I'm just going to use an example, and hopefully you can join in with me. I'm more of a perfectionist, and so what happens is I'll sit down and I'll get like analysis paralysis when I'm looking at, because I want it to be perfect before I even start. So what I'm trying to say is, if I can't be a premium brand that everybody's gonna see and recognize right away, well, I'm hesitant, and so I don't even start building it to start with. As opposed to the generic brand, which that's the kind of the comparison, or how I want to talk about it from a personal perspective. Do you want to be a generic person, or are you really striving to be that premium brand? And I think there is no right answer, but when you're thinking about how do you want to convey yourself or promote yourself, that's a good place to start. So for example, I'm okay with being a generic brand. I don't have to be the flashiest one on the shelf. What I want to make sure people know is that I'm made with the same ingredients, and that I'm just as effective as the one on the top shelf. I just may not have the same label.
Yeah.
Does that kind of resonate? Am I on the right page with
does.
that?
I think so, because I think that everyone looks at we talk about brand like Coca-Cola or Apple or whatever, and they're like, I want to be the Maserati of whatever. And I think the challenge with that is, because if you aspire to that, that's great, but if you don't start moving in that direction by the analysis paralysis, as you pointed out, like that's a challenge. You'll never get out of the gate with that. And I think what people need to understand, and I think you do, is that if you can provide value to just a handful of people, that's building your brand. And then when you talk about, there's all this stuff about content strategies and trying to get the maximum amount of followers on whatever social platform you're on. I think the key to that is, what do you know, and how can you help somebody? I don't post a ton of videos. I'm starting to get back into that. But it seems to me the ones that resonate with the most people are ones where I'm literally just kind of talking off the cuff, like my toddler didn't want to brush her teeth and she threw an absolute fit, and I talk about that and how that's a toddler mindset.
Sure.
And how, and that's the kind of stuff that, for me, when I post stuff on mindset, that's what seems to get most people go, oh, he's a normal person.
Yeah, it's authenticity.
Yeah. And I think that's where people struggle a little bit, because they're like, well, my filter's not right on my Instagram, right? Like, you're not a model. Maybe you are. I don't know. But it's those things, I think, that kind of taint a little bit of the branding, right? Because again, I think the question is, what are you trying to accomplish? Who are you trying to help? And what do you find fulfilling?
Right. Well, and an important thing that I always emphasize, that what we added, the 10th piece of the puzzle to success, is contribution, which I a lot of times I just say, well, what's that mean? It's just show up. And where I'm going is, when you're working on your post, you're working on putting your brands together. Once you post something like that video that you did the other day, you have no idea, as you're posting that, who's going to see it. And the fact that even if it's one person, that you're able to change their perspective, change their viewpoint, make their day. You
win.
Misery enjoys company. You said, oh man, I'm battling with this baby that just got dirty diaper all over. Well,
it's 2:30 in the morning.
I'm not the only person that's struggling. But that wouldn't have happened if you didn't show up, if you didn't contribute, if you didn't participate. So there's value to being consistent. You have to spend a little bit of time up front to decide what message you want to convey. How does your stamp, what's it going to look like? But once you do that, you got to continue to move forward. You can't just set it aside and, like you said, expect it to grow, because it won't happen.
Well, the one thing that's awesome about, again, some of the challenges of social media and that, but there's a really cool thing about personal branding, is that you can change it. 10 years from now, you and I might be doing totally different things. And we have an opportunity to reinvent ourselves as our criteria changes, right? Success isn't the same today as it will be 10 years from now for us as individuals.
That's an awesome point.
So the whole branding thing, brands are ephemeral, right? They're fleeting. They don't last. And so you have to keep that consistency up, like you said. But if you decide that that's not a direction you want to go, or you want to change it, I mean, how many people do you know that had a day job and their passion was something totally different?
Yeah.
And then 5 or 10 years down the road, they were finally able to turn that into something that they just love. They totally reinvented themselves or refocused themselves. And I think that's an important note when you talk about branding. It's
Absolutely
not set in stone.
Well, and I think that's a great point, and it's also a great way to kind of bring our conversation full circle as we're getting end of our time here. How many people do I know? I can confidently say that due to I've decided and the community that I'm involved with and that we're happy to have you be a part of with our conference, I know quite a few people that have went through that and left or changed their idea on their 9 to 5 job and conscientiously took that leap of faith, put the stake in the ground, and searched for what their purpose was. They followed their passion, and for a lot of people like me, it's turned into a profession. So, great way to end the discussion on brand. Once again, Bill, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for
It's gone quick.
participating. Oh, I told you the time flies by. But for all of you watching, again, please, if you haven't registered for the September 12th conference, www.ivedecided.org, go out and register. As Bill said, he's just going to be one of our great speakers. We'd love to see you there. And in the meantime, I'm Kurt P. White, and I can't wait to see you next month. Thank you for watching The Source. Pieces of the puzzle that I've decided provides. There's 10 of them. Tools and resources are 2 of them. We're a source of information, a source of motivation, a resource for the people that might need a little bit of encouragement. If this show, The Source, can help our members do that, I'm all in and I'm excited.